You're watching once again a YouTube video presentation of the University of Wyoming Center on Aging. I'm Scott Veatch. I'm your host, and on this program we'll be discussing topics of interest for caregivers of loved ones with dementia. We hope that you will subscribe to the channel and you'll hit that thumbs up like button. Both of those actions help the channel to grow and allow us to reach more people. And if you'll tap that notification bell, you'll be alerted each time we upload a new program. And now, this is Once Again. We're doing things a little differently today on this edition of Once Again. And I guess we'll call you my co-host, Carol Taylor, is with it. She is my partner in crime, colleague with Wyoming Dementia Together. And we're going to be telling my story today. And so Carol's going to facilitate. Thank you, my friend, so much for doing this and allowing me to share my story today on the program. So take it away. What would you like to know?
All right. And I know I have time constraints because we could talk for hours. I know we've done it before.
Yeah, yes.
So, for the benefit of our wonderful audience and fellow travelers on this path of dementia, I think it would be helpful if you would just start with Mona's story. When you met, how you met, when you married, why you married then. That's a wonderful chapter of your story. And then we'll go from there.
One of my favorite topics of all is talking about my wife Mona. We met in college. We met in choir in college. She and I were both members of the major college choir and also the chamber choir. We got to know each other. You know, Carol, I always thought as a teenage boy, 15, 16 years old, well, my parents had a great marriage, had a great family life, and I always looked forward to getting married. And I played basketball in high school and college. And so as a 15, 16-year-old boy, I always thought that I was going to marry someone tall and blonde and graceful and athletic, a Swedish supermodel, and she and I were going to raise a family full of Olympic athletes. That's what I thought
Yes.
as a young boy. And the girl I fell in love with was maybe 5'2" on her tallest day. She had no interest in athletics at all. She was a redhead. She was not Swedish. She was of Irish and German descent. She had the most beautiful red hair that I've ever seen. And I was smitten. I have to tell you a quick story about that. I was sharing an apartment with my buddy Ray. And Ray, if you happen to be watching this, a shout out to you. We were in college together, and one night, uh, before Mona and I had even started dating, we were friends. She came by the apartment we were sharing, dropped off some music that we were working on. And when she left our apartment after just a few minutes, she walked out the door, and I turned to Ray and I said, "You know, someday I'm going to marry that girl." And we hadn't even dated yet. I was being prophetic, Carol, and we started dating, and uh, she was grounded. She was solid. She was working full time. She had her own apartment. She was going to school, and we met and we dated for a little over a year before we got engaged. Funny story about that too was our first date was actually on my 20th birthday. So the last time I ever dated anyone other than Mona, I was a teenager. So we were together a long time and fell in love, got married, ended up with three daughters and eight grandchildren. The rest of it, they say, is history.
Beautiful, beautiful. Tell tell me about Mona. Tell me more. I have my own aspect and conformation of who she is because I've heard so many beautiful, lovely, and hysterically funny
Right.
Mona stories. But describe her, her personality, her beliefs, her commitments, maybe even her code of conduct in life. What
Mhm.
did she believe in?
Well, she had a very strong personality, as do I. So
Mhm.
we kind of managed to play off each other as far as that goes. She was very creative. She loved taking care of house plants. She was always crocheting or knitting. She loved learning. She had a beautiful soprano singing voice.
Mm.
She loved the opera. She played keyboard. She taught music lessons. She was a school teacher, a fabulous cook. She always went all out at Halloween for our kids' costumes with face painting and she was a wonderful, warm, strong-willed personality. I think all of our girls knew that if ever they got into trouble, they came to me because they knew that they'd get mercy from dad. You know, they got judgment from their mom. But uh, yeah, she was a very strong personality. Um, there was never a moment in our married life that was too big for her. I never saw her panic or I never saw her I never saw her complain or whine. She was always the type of person who, when an issue, a problem came up, as life always does present us with problems, when something came up, she always faced it head on. She never backed down. She never complained or whined, no matter what the situation was.
Wow.
It was always a case of, this is it. This is what we're looking at. Okay, let's take it on. And she was a very loving, compassionate um, partner, and we had a fabulous marriage.
That's
I
something.
wish that all marriages could have been as good as ours.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And earlier you said she was grounded, and someone who is grounded is likely to take some of those class five rapids that life throws at us in good measure. And she's looking for solutions and moving forward. And I know enough about how your brain works that that's so complementary with how you view life and how we're going to take things next. And I think that's fabulous. Tell me about your family life at home with the girls.
We had three daughters, and very much, like their mom, they all had an interest in music, and they're all very creative, and it's really interesting to me now, Carol, because now that Mona has passed, and she passed in December of 21. I can see so much of her in our grandchildren. Um, uh, we have granddaughters. We have six granddaughters and two grandsons, and I can see in our granddaughters that I think all of them have an interest in music. One of them is into performing and loves to do that. Another one is very active in the kitchen, loves to cook and to bake like her grandmother. Another one loves to learn and take care of kids. Several of them have already indicated an interest in teaching, which their mom was and their grandmother was. And so even though Mona has passed, I still see her so evidently, so vividly in our granddaughters. And I know Mona would have been very proud of them, not only just for those qualities, but for the young ladies and for the women that they've become.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Scott. And I understand what you're saying, though Mona is not here. Her influence is strongly felt. and if not just in attributes or talents, but also her physical qualities and her personality, and that's beautiful. Is that comforting to you, or does that make you miss her more?
I think that yes, the answer to that is it is comforting. Um,
Hmm.
that that was a process for me. I had to learn
Oh
it.
yeah.
Something that I came up with right away.
No.
At first, at first I was really disappointed, a little sad and angry that that she's not here to see her grandchildren grow up. And disappointed, sad, and angry that our grandkids don't have the opportunity to know their grandmother. But I think it's evolved into what I mentioned just a moment ago that that I do see Mona um, so vividly in the young adults, the adults that her grandkids have become, and I think yeah, it probably is a comfort. It's gratifying, um, and it's just a part of a circle of life. It's one of those things that I didn't come by immediately. It took some time, several years to reach that point, but that's kind of where I
Oh
think I am right now.
yeah, that's really beautiful. She definitely left her heart print uh,
Good way of putting it. A
on
good.
the family. Yeah, definitely. Let's talk a little bit about when you began to notice that things were changing with Mona, mostly in terms of brain changes, and that can be defined any way you want to define it. What do you recall started happening, and when were you acutely aware that something was happening?
Well, I think for anyone who is now or has been a caregiver for someone with Alzheimer's or another form of dementia, the beginning takes you by surprise because there have to be a number of incidents before you start to think maybe this just isn't a bad day or a bad week or
Right.
um, it's a process that develops. She always handled our family finances. Um, she uh, she bounced some checks, the old checkbook thing, and that
Hmm.
never happened. That was one of the first indicators. Um, just some things that she was responsible for in the community around our household became too much for her, and she began to realize it. And she started to pull back from some of the responsibilities that she had. And at first, I just found it curious. I thought maybe
Hmm.
tired. Maybe
Hmm.
it was a a case of where what she was responsible for had just run its course and
Hmm.
looking to do something else. But then she began to make mistakes in the kitchen with recipes, and we just got this sense that something wasn't right. She became tired more and needed more sleep, and so then you begin comparing notes. I began comparing notes with our daughters and some of her friends, and we were all noticing the same things and kind of reaching the same conclusions that something was off and it didn't appear to be temporary, that
Hmm.
something that wasn't going away. And,
Hmm.
and so for us, at first, I thought, you never think worst case scenario. I thought maybe it was a problem with her sleep, or maybe she had a vitamin deficiency, or maybe
Hmm.
it was an allergic reaction to something
Hmm.
that was going.
Hmm.
Those were all of the things that first crossed my mind. And so that was when we first thought about um, taking her to the doctor and begin the process of looking for a definitive diagnosis of of what was going on. And really, when that happens, you begin the process of the diagnosis, and eventually you reach the point where we said, I don't care what it is. I just let me know what it is. Let me know what it is that we're fighting against. Let me know what we're up against, because something isn't right. And it takes such a long time going through the dementia diagnosis. For us, it was about 6 or 8 months of doctor's visits and MRIs and CAT scans and blood work and sleep studies and it's a case of where you go see one specialist and they have tests that they take, and it's 10 days before you get the test results. And so then they send you to another specialist, and it's 2 weeks to get an appointment there. And the process just repeats itself. And so it took more than 8 months from the start,
Sure.
from the first time that we went to the family doctor before we actually were able to get a diagnosis and find out what it was that we were up against.
Mm-hmm. Scott, what you describe is, and you know this from working with us on our team at Wyoming Dementia Together, that is a very familiar response.
Absolutely.
Something was a little bit off, and you had actual concrete things that were off. The checkbook, that's concrete. Not being able to follow a recipe, concrete. And rather than so many people, bless us all for trying as hard as we do, but will excuse the first, year or so of things that are happening because I think she was just tired or she was stressed, all the things that you said. And I think we all go through that. We go through that. And essentially, once we do get into the medical realm, that's what we hope for. We hope that the specialists are ruling out every other possibility. And I hear also what you say, just name it. What is it? I know something's changing, something's different. What is it? And now what are we to do? So when you did get that diagnosis, what were your thoughts and feelings at that time?
Well, I'll tell you what, that sounds like a perfect tease into part two of our discussion. So why don't we take that? We're gonna
That's great.
we're gonna wrap this up. This part one of our conversation. I'm Scott V.
Beautiful.
Is Carol Taylor. We're both part of Wyoming Dementia Together. In part two, we're going to be talking about what takes place when you're a caregiver and how your life changes. And we thank you for being with us for this part one of the conversation. And we will be back with part two of our conversation. That's
Excellent.
next week.
Great. Looking forward to it.
You've been watching once again a YouTube video presentation of the University of Wyoming Center on Aging. We hope, if you haven't done so already, that you'll subscribe to the channel and hit that thumbs up like button. Both of those actions help the channel to grow and allow us to reach more people. And if you'll tap that notification bell, you'll be alerted each time we upload a new video. Thanks so much for being with us. I'm Scott Veatch. We'll see you again next time.